Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm going to do something a little bit different, and that is going to be making a video without trying to make any cuts or anything like that. I really just want this to kind of flow organically, and I'm going to be kind of heading in that direction of making future videos like this. I'd like to do like a Pinterest surfing session. I'd like to do some design with me sessions. So this is kind of like a transition and just helping me get used to it. My goal here is to not make any cuts or edits. So let's see how well I do with it. I guess I can work on some improvisation here. So the song that is stuck in my head this morning is Bullet with Butterfly Wings, so I'm going to do something with that. The opening lyric here is "The world is a vampire," so I'm going to be doing something kind of cool with that, so we'll see just kind of what direction this takes us in. I am using Acumen Pro Wide. This is, I believe, a free font, and what I love about this font is how vast the choices are for the actual font itself. You've got a lot of different ways that you can display the font. There's thin all the way up to black italic. It's also got like an ultra black, so I guess it also has ultra black italic. So you've got a lot of different options here and really cool stuff. But the entire library itself of Acumen is just ridiculous. You've got a variable concept right here, and you can choose this huge library of all these different things. And of course you can go in and actually tailor it exactly the way that you want it. So super cool. And it's one that I use fairly often. I probably should use it a little bit more often than I actually do. But anyway, let's go ahead and move forward with making something cool. And I don't really know exactly what I'm going to make yet, so I just want to kind of freeform it and just see what happens. Let's not do that. Or actually, you know what? Why don't we do that? Let's just see what happens. What happens if we just kind of do something like this, where we do 3 letters? Yeah, it works. All right, that's pretty cool. It might actually work out best because I do have kind of a loose idea of what to do with this. So let's convert to outlines and let's ungroup everything. And what I want to do here is just kind of fill in some of those negative areas right there, where we have like these areas that are really wide and then some areas that are a lot more narrow. So let's try to do something like this. I'm going to select all the middle letters here, and we'll align those horizontally with each other. And then let's bring this over here and let's align these also horizontally. And we'll do this here as well. So that's pretty cool. And let's see if we can arrange it in such a way that is nice and visually appealing and just kind of helps to solve some of those issues there. I actually might go in and just kind of adjust things a little bit. Okay, so I like the spacing and the relationship between each one of these letters right here, although I think I'll move the A a little bit closer to the S. There we go, that's a lot better. And I don't think we need to necessarily center everything here, so let's move this a little bit closer to that. Then I'm going to grab this little section right here. What if we did something like this, where we just kind of do a little bit of offsetting here to where it's not centered and everything. We can align up that D and that S together. I don't want to get too far removed here because the effect that I'm thinking of doing is actually a lot better when things are a little bit more clustered together. So why don't we do that instead? So we'll do a 1-letter offset with most everything, and we'll just kind of do it in the center there. The key when you're doing stuff like this is to make it look intentional and not make it look like it was an accident. So let's grab these right here. That's looking pretty cool. And we'll align that M and that E together. I think that looks really cool. Okay, so now we'll select everything here. And now that we've got it exactly the way that we want it, I'm going to group it. And let's center this on the page. And I'm going to bring it all the way up to 24, and we'll take it down to 20 inches so that way we get some margins around the sides. And I'm going to bring it down to 14 inches so our margins are exactly 2 inches on each side. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm going to put a little bit of small text in here, and we'll just mainly put some information. I'm not really worrying about adhering to a grid or anything. I'm really just kind of playing around with stuff. Best thing to do generally is when you don't have a specific goal in mind, just go in and play with stuff and see what happens. So we'll do this right here. I'll put Smashing Pumpkins over here on this side. And I'm not going to worry too much about the kerning here. I think I might go in and adjust this. The spacing between the T and the H right here, it's just a little bit too tight for me. But everything else looks good for the most part. M and that P can definitely use a little bit of love, so let's do that. And maybe just a hair in between the I and the S. And let's not put a V in there. Okay. Now that we've got that, and we can create outlines. And what I'll do is I'll push this all the way down, and then we'll hit enter on our keyboard, and we're going to move the position 0 inches on horizontal and -1 inch on vertical. So that way we have 2 inches of margin around the main artwork, and then 1 inch of margin around the bottom type. And then let's go ahead and just kind of check this out really quickly. If there's anything that's a little bit too close together, let's kind of space that out a little bit. Don't really need to do too much adjusting in here. Okay. All right, that's looking good. Let's go ahead and create outlines there. And I will align this with the right side of our artwork there. And then we'll align the bottom of it with this Smashing Pumpkins text over here on the side. Okay. I think what I'll do up here, just to kind of balance things out a little bit, is I'll add up here the album title. And then I'll put over here the release date of the album itself. It's crazy that I know that by heart by now. And let's see if there's any kerning we can do in here. Just small stuff. I'm not going to go through and like really do a lot of crazy intense kerning in here. Just small adjustments here and there. Hopefully sometime this week, maybe tomorrow or Friday. I'm not exactly sure, but I'd like to do my first Pinterest surfing session video where you actually get to come with me on all of my Pinterest surfing. And I think that was a really cool idea suggested by somebody. You know who you are. And I'm looking forward to doing that. Okay. So let's do this. If I don't get to it this week, then I'll definitely get to it next week. This week has been insane around the house with my family. We've had a lot going on lately. And doing my best over here. Okay, so let's do that. It's looking really cool. And let's align this to the right. Just to make sure we don't have any issues here. All right, I'm going to create outlines there, and now we'll align this to the right side of our large type. And then we'll align this to the left side of it. And then we'll send both of these to the top. Wait, we have to align to our artboard, send them both to the top, and then 0, and then 1 inch down. So we have our design right here, and we have a 1-inch margin going around the outer edges of the top and bottom type. But what's kind of cool about this is the fact that this, on the left and right side, it's actually a 2-inch margin. So I want to see what it looks like if we move these over. Instead, I want to see if it gives better balance to the design. Okay, I think that in a technical sense, it's giving better balance to the design, but optically, I think this looks better. So I think we're going to go ahead and move forward with that. Okay, so the effect that I'm thinking of doing once we move it over into Photoshop, it's actually going to be better if we carry over smaller type and larger type in separate chunks. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's select our smaller type right here. I'm going to hit copy. Actually, before I do that, let me convert that to outlines. I totally forgot to do that. One thing that I will edit out for all of you is my coughing, because we've been doing a lot of coughing in this house lately. All right, so I'm going to copy that, and let's start a new document in Photoshop. I'm going to say 18 by 24 inches at 300 resolution. And in fact, I'm going to add an extra 1/4 inch margin here just in case I want to get this printed. Now we'll hit create. So we should have that type on our clipboard. So let's go ahead and paste this. And I always recommend pasting as a smart object, because when you paste as a smart object, you can go back into Illustrator and edit that if you want to. However, if you paste it as pixels, you're not going to be able to do that, but you can always convert it over to raster, which is basically like pasting as pixels, later. Okay, let's go back here into Illustrator and grab our large block of type here. I'm going to hit copy. And now we'll hit paste as a smart object again. And I'm just going to paste that right in the center. So I'm going to hit Command A or Control A to select everything. And this only works per layer. So I have my large type right up here. And we're going to go up here with the Move tool selected. So make sure you hit V on your keyboard. We're going to go up here to the Align Center and Align Center. So this will align horizontally and vertically. And then we'll do the same thing for the smaller type as well. Okay, so like a good designer, I'm going to name my layers here. I'm just going to say large text and then small text. Just makes it a lot easier to work with when you know exactly which layers you're working with. Okay, so let's add a background layer of almost black. So we'll bring it up to like 10% there. And I'm going to go ahead and double click on my layer, and we're going to click on color overlay. And I'm going to bring this up to almost white, bring it up to about 95% and hit OK. And I'm going to hold down Option or Alt over this little effects icon, and we're going to click and drag this down to the small text layer. And that's just going to copy that color overlay down to the smaller text layer. Okay, now what I'm going to do is hit Command or Control J, and we're going to make a copy of the large text. And we'll do the same thing with the small text as well. Now I'm going to double click on my large text copy, and we're going to go into color overlay. We're going to change the color to red. And hit OK. And now I'm going to change my blending mode to difference. And now with my Move tool selected, I'm going to hold down Shift and hit my keyboard down arrow 4 times. And then we'll do the same thing going to the right. All right, now I'm going to bring my large text layer, the original one, we're going to bring that up above our copy. And let's go ahead and select this blending mode right here. We're going to select Subtract. And you'll notice it hasn't done anything yet, but what we need to do is double click here and go to our color overlay. And we're going to change our color to kind of this tealish blue right here and hit OK. And now within the color overlay, we're going to change our blending mode to exclusion. So you can see here we've got this really cool overlap of colors, giving it kind of a 3D look. Let's hit OK. And let's zoom out and look at it at a glance. That is looking really cool. All right, now I'm going to do the exact same effect to the smaller type, but because it's a lot smaller, we also need to make the adjustments smaller. So I'm going to zoom into 100% here. And let's move our small text on top of our small text copy. And I'm going to hold down Option or Alt on the effects and bring this down to our small text. And then for the large text copy, we'll also copy those effects over to the small text copy. And earlier, our large text copy was the one that we moved. So let's move the small text copy. And now let's change the small text layer to subtract. And we've got that cool effect going on. But we definitely need to make sure that we bring it down just a little bit. So when you hold down Shift and you move your arrow, that's moving at 10 pixels. So let's move it 5 pixels to the left and then 5 pixels up. So with our small text copy layer selected and our move tool selected, we'll hit left 5 times and up 5 times. All right, that's looking so much better. All right, let's get an overall view. This is looking really cool. Although the one thing that's missing here is effects. So let's go in and add like a paper layer to this. And I'm also thinking probably a halftone effect. So I'm going to add a new layer. And I'm going to call this grain. And hit OK. And we're going to hit Shift and Delete to fill this with 50% gray. We'll hit OK. Now I'm going to go up here to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And I'm going to turn the grain up all the way, and the size, and the roughness. And let's bring in a vignette of -50 to give it a really dramatic look. All right, that's looking really cool. And now let's change the blending mode to overlay so that we can see all the effects in there. And that's the main reason why we did a background color of near black, because if you bring it all the way down to black, then you don't see any of those effects. All right, now I'm going to select the large text layer because I want to create a layer in between grain and large text. So let's create a new layer, and I'm going to call this halftone. And we'll also fill this with 50% gray, just like we did last time. And just for now, we can hide the grain layer. Now let's go here to Filter and Filter Gallery. And I'm in here in Sketch and Halftone Pattern, and I'm going to create a circular halftone. And I'll leave the size at 1, and maybe the contrast will bring it up to 50. So it's looking pretty crazy right now, but if you zoom in to 100%, you'll actually see that it has a pretty cool effect there. And we'll change this also to overlay. And let's turn back on that grain layer to kind of hide some of that jaggedness. And what we'll do is click on our halftone pattern and go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And we're going to blur it, but just a little bit, just enough to be able to still see that circular halftone pattern. It looks like 1.5 pixels is going to do the job, so we'll do that. And now the lettering in here just looks a little bit too crisp and sharp, so let's go in and just kind of also give it a little bit of a blur. So we'll go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And for the large text, we'll set it at a 3. And we'll do both layers. And that really helps the grain and the halftone pattern to really bleed into the letters there. And it gives it a really nice vintage look. And now we'll collapse our effects over here on the right side, and we'll do the same thing with our small text. But we need to size this effect accordingly for the smaller type. So let's bring it down to a 1 instead. And now we'll do the same thing with the copy. Very cool. All right, here's our at a glance version of this poster. It is kind of hard to see those effects, especially when we are so zoomed out like this. So this is an at a glance version, and let's zoom in all the way to 100%. Actually, let's go to 200%. So you can see exactly what effects are going on there. Now, one thing that you could do is go in and move the halftone pattern to where it's not exactly in the center. But just remember that if you do that, then you've got an area over here where that halftone pattern isn't happening. So if you wanted it to cover the entire area, what you would have to do is create another document that is much wider than this one, and then bring over that halftone pattern on top of this poster. But I'm just going to keep it like this because I'm pretty happy with it. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this Design With Me session. I definitely look forward to doing more of these, ones that are a little bit less polished, a little bit more raw, and just not trying to anticipate the cuts and the edits and everything. I just want things to feel a lot more natural and organic for everyone that's watching these videos. I know that me personally, I really enjoy kind of watching a designer doing their thing, and I'll probably do some with less commentary as I get a little bit more comfortable in it. And I also don't mind going on camera. I know a lot of people really like that. So let me know what you thought of this video's format down in the comments. I really love to hear your thoughts on it. I hope this video was valuable to you. If it was, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.